Every year, there's a quarterback or two that comes out of seemingly nowhere to become one of the top picks in the NFL draft. This past year was Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, as they both ended up being top 3 picks. The year before was Joe Burrow, as he went from being a late round pick to the number 1 overall selection. There are a lot of intriguing quarterback names that'll likely be in next year's NFL draft, including Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler, Keaton Slovis, JT Daniels, and Desmond Ridder. However, those names might not be the first quarterback's name you hear in next year's NFL draft. It could be Malik Willis, quarterback from Liberty. Before we get to today's video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss another video. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. It's been a wild ride from Malik Willis just to get to this point in his collegiate career. Originally, the 3-star quarterback was committed to Virginia Tech. During his senior season in high school, he threw for over 2,500 yards with 27 passing touchdowns to go along with 1,000 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. However, Auburn got a whiff of the quarterback and offered him a scholarship. Now, Willis wasn't expected to play quarterback for the Hokies, but Auburn wanted to use him at quarterback and have him as a backup, so he decommitted from Virginia Tech and became a Tiger. It turned out to be a huge addition for Auburn, as quarterbacks Woody Barrett and Tyler Queen left the program, and John Franklin III moved to wide receiver in the spring of 2017. Auburn also added Baylor transfer Jarrett Stidham, who was named the starter. Still, as a true freshman, Willis was the backup quarterback at an SEC powerhouse. He didn't see much action in 2017 while sitting behind Stidham. He completed 6 of 7 passes and threw a touchdown while adding over 200 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. He was the backup quarterback to Stidham again in 2018, but barely saw the field. He attempted only 7 passes and rushed for just under 100 yards with a touchdown. Then, in 2019, Auburn added Joey Gatewood, a top 50 recruit, along with 5-star quarterback Bo Nix. With a deep quarterback room, Willis could have immediately jumped ship to another school. Instead, he stayed and competed with the hopes of winning the starting job. After the decision from Auburn came that the starting quarterback would be either Nix or Gatewood, Willis decided to enter the transfer portal. He ultimately decided to transfer to Liberty, where he'd play under head coach Hugh Freeze, who was in talks to become the offensive coordinator at Auburn while Willis was there. He applied to be eligible for the 2019 season, but his waiver was denied and he was forced to sit out the entire year. Willis was eligible for 2020 and was named the Flames starting quarterback. In his first game at Liberty, he immediately put everyone on notice of his potential. He rushed for a game-high 168 yards with 3 rushing touchdowns. He also completed 13 of 21 passes for 130 yards. The 168 rushing yards were the most by a Liberty quarterback in a single game. Not too bad for your debut. Most importantly though, Liberty picked up the win. The following week, Willis upped his numbers in the passing game as he completed 80% of his passes for nearly 300 yards with 2 touchdown passes. He also added 85 yards on the ground as Liberty picked up their 2nd straight victory to begin the year. His performance against Southern Mississippi is what really put his name on the map. He had a program record 7 touchdowns in Liberty's win. He passed for a career-high 345 yards on 24 of 31 passing, tying the single-game program record with 6 touchdown passes. He also added 100 yards on 12 carries, and his rushing touchdown gave him 7 total touchdowns, which was a program record. Liberty also moved to 6-0 in the season, tying the program record for most wins to begin a season. Ranked for the first time in program history, Liberty traveled to play Virginia Tech, the school that Malik Willis originally committed to. He threw for over 200 yards with 3 passing touchdowns, while adding more than 100 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown in Liberty's upset victory. Now, how did he follow up that performance? By throwing for 300 yards with 3 touchdowns and 100 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns against Western Carolina, moving Liberty to 8-0 on the season. The following week was when Liberty suffered their first loss of the year, a 1-point loss on the road to NC State. Now, Malik had his worst game of the season as he completed 40% of his passes while throwing 3 interceptions. He still did have 2 touchdowns and over 200 total yards, but it wasn't his best outing. Still, Liberty had a chance to win. And he caught the eye of NC State defensive coordinator Tony Gibson. Now, Gibson said that Willis reminded him a lot of another quarterback he faced a few years ago, Patrick Mahomes. Watching him on film, I was scared to death. He has a really strong arm and a very quick release. One of the games, he threw a ball like 75 yards, and it was right on the money. Quincy Avery, who was a private quarterback coach who has trained Deshaun Watson, Josh Dobbs, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, told The Athletic that Willis has the livest arm out of anybody he's coached. He said he has the strongest arm out of anybody he's seen. Now granted, he did just coach Trey Lance, who many experts said had the strongest arm in this past draft class. Not a bad comparison going up against some of those names. According to an article from The Athletic, Avery's been wowed by how much velocity Willis can get on his throws and how effortlessly he can throw the ball with pace. Here's what Avery also added. The same way that Zach Wilson rose throughout the draft process, Malik Willis should do the same thing if we're just talking talent to talent. Liberty's offensive coordinator Kent Austin had this to say about Malik Willis. He just needed to work on a few fundamental flaws, but the thing that's great about Malik is he's unbelievably coachable. He's a really humble guy. He wants to be great, and because of his God-given ability, he's going to work at refining that and being able to take you to know those changes consistently into a football game. We're talking about a quarterback that's 220 pounds. I don't know what he runs, but if he's not the fastest guy in the field, he's probably the second fastest player, and he's not just a straight line guy. He's a super twitchy athlete who has unbelievable natural playmaking ability with great vision as a runner. He's got a great arm and has a quick release, and he can make all the off-platform throws. Willis and Liberty bounced back with a win the following week as he threw for 220 yards with 3 touchdowns while adding 60 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. After a month off, Malik and Liberty returned for their bowl game against Coastal Carolina, who was undefeated entering the game. Liberty handed the Chanticleers their first loss of the season, and Malik Willis was fantastic. He threw for over 200 yards and added 140 yards on the ground, his second most of the season. He also rushed for a season-high 4 rushing touchdowns, nearly taking down Coastal Carolina due to his legs alone. Yet again, Willis gained praise from the opposing coaching staff. Coastal Carolina defensive coordinator Chad Staggs had this to say about Willis. "We were undefeated. We had beat BYU, and I thought we were pretty good on defense, and I felt like he single-handedly beat us. We couldn't tackle him. He's got a cannon. From a true physical ability thing, he was special. I was watching him pregame, and I'm like, holy crap, he's throwing deep out to the field and stuff. I'm thinking, uh-oh. He throws an amazing tight spiral. I mean, it comes out of his hand and it pops. Even though he's an amazing player on the field, it appears as if he's an even better teammate." Here's what Liberty offensive coordinator Kent Austin had to say about Malik and his contribution to the team off the field. "He's really endearing to his teammates, and that's not in any way a manipulative or fake way. He's just genuinely that guy. So he pulls people in right with his endearing nature, and they know what he's going through. His teammates know that Malik's going to play as hard as he can to help them win a football game. And the thing about Malik is he's really coachable, and he really wants to be great. He's got a strong desire for that. So we just had to work on a few things with respect to his mechanics, that at least the last part of his skill became more consistent on a step-by-step basis. He's not going to be a quarterback that's going to go over there and grab you and get your attention and get in your face. He leads more by example, and he's got more of a teaching spirit to him. You'll see him a lot after a series when we're on the sidelines. He's there with receivers, talking through things to prepare for the next series, talking with the offense alone with respect to protection and these types of things. Because when he's in a game, a quarterback needs to learn how to remove all the distractions and focus on the very next play, and be able to execute the very next play with a great decision, and we can handle it. We can handle those types of things easier on the sideline than we can during play, because we got to focus on the next play and make sure that we stay in the field and move the sticks. Now, as I mentioned, Malik Willis is a guy who is quickly shooting up mock drafts. His name is gaining attention, and there are people out there who believe he could really be the top quarterback taken in next year's draft. Now, regardless of where he goes, definitely keep an eye on him in Liberty next season. He's only going to get better, and there's a real chance that Liberty can go undefeated, and Malik Willis can potentially make a run at the Heisman Trophy. So, what are your thoughts on Malik Willis? Do you think he potentially could be a top 10 or even a top 5 pick in next year's NFL Draft? Drop a comment down below and share with me your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you never miss another video. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.